A cold day for many, with those temperatures just struggling a degree or so above freezing, the exception the southwest. And that's how we stay for the rest of the week, really. For the next few days, staying cold, frost and ice a problem, and some further spells of freezing fog. But still, we have the indications as we move towards the weekend of something milder but wetter by Sunday. George.
All right, Louise, thanks very much. Thank you. A reminder of tonight's main news. A British grandmother convicted of drug smuggling in Indonesia has been given the death penalty. She says she'll appeal. It's only 6:30. Stay with us. It's time to join the BBC's news teams where you are. Goodbye.
Tonight on BBC London News.
Muslim patrol move away from the mosque.
Police investigate online footage of self-styled vigilante Muslims patrolling the streets of East London.
None of this behaviour stems from our religion, and it's a duty upon us to speak out against this.
2 men have been arrested also tonight. The growing cruelty to horses. There's a huge rise in the number being abandoned and even mutilated. Plus, get ready for more of this at the Olympic Park. It's confirmed 2 major festivals will be held there this summer. And we hear from the Oscar-nominated team behind the film adaptation of Les Miserables.
While we're running our daily bread, she's the woman that ran to the border. You must send the sun.
Good evening, welcome to the programme. Police investigating online footage showing self-styled vigilante Muslims patrolling the streets of Whitechapel have arrested 2 people. The images show a group of men approaching people close to the East London Mosque, demanding women to cover themselves up and telling men to pour away alcohol. Tonight, mosque leaders condemned those behind the videos, saying their actions were not in accordance with the Islamic faith. Our Home Affairs correspondent Guy Smith reports.
We call it, obviously, to not dress like that in Muslim area. This is a Muslim area.
Confronting a woman wearing a short skirt.
No alcohol is allowed.
Intimidating a man carrying a can of beer.
Alcohol, bad. This is a Muslim area.
Why are you bothering me? I'm not...
Because you're walking through a Muslim area, dressed like a fag, mate. You need to get out of it.
And harassing a passerby with homophobic comments. All filmed and anonymously uploaded onto the internet. These individuals claim to be Muslims patrolling the streets of East London.
It's a Muslim area. Right. Obviously, no alcohol is allowed in this area.
We're just appalled by these videos. It's utterly unacceptable behaviour towards members of the public.
Salman Farsi is a spokesman for the largest mosque in the capital. He says there have also been incidents outside his place of worship in East London.
None of this behaviour stems from our religion, and it's a duty upon us to speak out against this.
I'm so appalled.
We don't care if you're appalled at all.
Muslim patrol.
It's Great Britain.
This we don't care. It's not so Great Britain.
These are clearly actions by a tiny minority, but are they prompted by honestly held beliefs or just an attempt to be deliberately provocative? Abdul Mahid says he too organised patrols against prostitution in Waltham Forest and filmed them. And 4 years ago, he was convicted of fundraising for terrorists. I asked him if he thought these latest videos were acceptable or not.
I believe if anyone else can do a better job than that, they should come out and do a better job and make an example of how to do a better job.
Isn't it intimidating and harassing people?
I believe that if someone else can do a job better, in a better way, they should come forward and do such a job and show these young individuals, give them an example.
Calling someone gay as if that's a problem in society? It's not a problem, is it?
Like I said, if someone knows how to do a action better than this, they should come forward.
As you can see, on a Saturday night, after a drunken night out, many people have been injured and haram has taken place.
This was an accident the self-styled Muslim patrol chose to highlight their beliefs. Scotland Yard says 2 people have been arrested in connection with the videos.
And Guy's here now. A widespread condemnation of this group, but there's no suggestion that this is anything other than a tiny minority of extremists, is there?
Absolutely, Riz. I think it's important to stress that this is a handful of agitators who are stirring up tensions within the community. Clearly, it's a publicity stunt, and actually they're doing the job for the far-right political groups. The police say that they're taking this seriously. They're trying to reassure the community, saying that these are very rare incidents. They've been talking to community leaders, to business leaders, and also to the local authority about this issue. They have arrested 2 people, a 19-year-old and a 22-year-old. They are currently on bail until March, pending further inquiries.
Guy, thank you. Our Home Affairs correspondent, Guy Smith. Coming up later in the programme, Doreen Lawrence talks about how her and her son live in constant fear.
So I had to say to him yesterday, he's going to be very careful when he's out. And I'm always worried about me being out, so I try not to be out too late.
Horses are being abandoned at an alarming rate, according to a charity in Essex. Red Wings says it's receiving almost 5 times as many calls as 3 years ago and is increasingly concerned about the number of horses being mutilated and even sexually assaulted. I should warn you that some viewers may find images in Yvonne Hall's report upsetting.
This is the body of a pony, horrifically mutilated and dumped in a ditch in Essex. We've covered the worst injuries. It was found near these private stables in Thurrock. A local councillor who tried to trace the owner is still traumatised.
I find it very hard to sleep for a couple of nights. It's distressing, it's upsetting, it's worrying. When these sadistic attacks happen, I certainly can't get my head around them. Then I worry, if they can do that to an animal, what else are they capable of doing?
Another victim of the growing number of horses neglected and dumped in Essex. This mare was so emaciated and infected she had to be destroyed. The owner of the Thurrock stables found her tied to her gate.
It's just heartbreaking for us because we've got animals ourselves and we would like to try and help when things like this happen, but we don't know who to turn to for the help. And it just goes from on, and when's it going to stop?
Here at the Red Wings Horse Sanctuary in Harlow, they've seen a rise of nearly 500% across the UK in the number of calls about dumped and neglected animals, some sexually assaulted. In 2009, they received 160 calls. In 2012, that shot up to more than 760. This foal was found abandoned with its mother when it was just a few days old. The soaring costs of caring for a horse and irresponsible breeding are believed to be the main problems. Red Wing says ponies can be bought at fairs for as little as 3 for £10. The difficulties tracing owners and the increasing cruelty has prompted 6 charities to urge the government to take action.
Very frustrated that the government have stopped funding the National Equine Database, which was a flawed but some kind of system that we had in place which would work to link up horses with their owners, and now there is no mechanism at all to do that.
The charities also want tougher microchip and horse passport schemes and increased penalties for neglect. The government says it's stopped the equine database because the information can be found elsewhere. It's now considering the charity's request for tougher action. Meanwhile, cases like this, a pony dumped with a broken leg, continue to be found by the charities every day. Yvonne Hall, BBC London News.
2 people have died in a house fire in North Finchley early this morning. Around 35 firefighters were called to the house in Fallow Court Avenue. Around 3/4 of the ground floor and half of the first floor were damaged. An investigation is underway into the cause. An inquest's heard that the pilot who died in a helicopter crash in central London had diverted because of bad weather before his aircraft clipped a crane and then plunged to the ground in Vauxhall. 50-year-old Pete Barnes had been flying from Redhill Aerodrome to Elstree before diverting to Battersea Heliport. The former Met Police commander, Ali Desai, has challenged his conviction for perverting the course of justice and misconduct in a public office. He was found guilty in February last year following a row outside a restaurant in West London and sacked from his job in May. His solicitor argued today that his previous conviction was unsafe. The Mayor's new economic advisor says London's economy is improving modestly but needs tax cuts and more infrastructure investment. Gerard Lyons made his first appearance at City Hall this morning, from where we can join our political editor Tim Donovan. So Tim, a call to be more positive?
Yes, he's the city economist brought here to City Hall to advise the mayor on how he can try to maintain London's position in a growing global economy and, yes, provide an intellectual and economic underpinning to the mayor's thinking in this area. He says the situation is improving, though it's still vulnerable and there's still a danger of the capital moving into a triple dip recession. And one of the reasons for this guarded optimism is the jobs picture in the capital. While there has been a loss of 36,000 jobs in the public sector over the last year, there's been compensation for that with private employees taking on more staff, 215,000, a rise of 6% in the last year. Now, there are particular problems, there have been in the manufacturing, construction sectors, information technology, and improvement needs to happen there. But overall, calls for optimism, which will be endorsed by the London Chamber of Commerce tomorrow with their latest findings.
It's very much about forcing through those shovel-ready projects, continuing on with those, and actually creating a sort of more vibrant enabling atmosphere so that those companies and those people who have the money to spend do feel enabled or basically prepared to do so.
So, Tim, that's what would happen ideally, but what could or should the mayor be doing now?
Well, yes, as you know, he's been asking for more flexibility. 2 years ago, the London Development Agency had a budget of £400 million for economic regeneration. When it was abolished, the responsibilities were passed to the mayor, but he wasn't able to negotiate very much money. There was a loss of many millions of pounds. Now, the London Enterprise Panel is something which has been created to replace it. The government offered £100 million last year. Very slow to get that off the ground, probably because of the election and the Olympics, though we are told there should be announcements on where the mayor wants to spend that shortly.
Tim, thank you. Our political editor, Tim Donovan at City Hall. Doreen Lawrence, the mother of Stephen Lawrence, who was murdered in a racist attack 20 years ago, has revealed that her other son, Stuart, has been subjected to threats. She believes it's because he made a formal complaint against the Met Police last month, alleging he'd been harassed by officers because of his colour. Mark Ashdown has more.
It was after the 25th time Stuart Lawrence claims he was stopped and searched by the police that he made a stand. He said he'd been subjected to a lengthy campaign of harassment because he's black. Going public with his experiences caused a stir, lots of media coverage, and now his mother Doreen says a direct threat has been received as a result.
Yes, I think in the early days our car and things was always attacked, and there are times we get letters sent to the trust about me, and recently there's one come through because Stuart has made a stand, has come through about him. So there are people,
a direct threat to Stuart, your son.
Yeah, there's people still like they're very angry. I think just the name of Stephen brings on their anger. So yeah.
In a few months, it'll be 20 years since Stephen Lawrence was murdered. Last year, Gary Dobson and Stephen Norris were convicted for their part, receiving lengthy jail terms. But in November, Stuart Lawrence tweeted about how he'd been stopped by police. He lodged a formal complaint, the family lawyer claiming it's evidence that problems of racism in the Met remain.
There has been threats, so I do take it seriously. I don't.
Doreen told the BBC's Hard Talk programme she fears for Stuart's and her safety.
I had to say to him yesterday, he's going to be very careful when he's out, and I'm always worried about me being out, so I try not to be out too late at night and travelling home and stuff, so the fear is always there.
The Met launched an investigation into the stop and search complaint and now say they're looking into an allegation of racially aggravated malicious communication. The debate over racism in the police continues, and 20 years after losing a son and brother, the Lawrence family are still key voices. Mark Ashdown, BBC London News.
The Department of Health says it will consider a petition against proposals to close Lewisham Hospital's A&E and reduce maternity services following a protest by campaigners this morning. The proposals have been made by administrators who say pregnant women will be given full support at other hospitals, but campaigners claim the plans are dangerous.
At the moment, the women who deliver in our birth centre can just go upstairs to the labour ward. If they take our obstetric unit away, so if they take the labour ward and the intensive care support away, then women will have to travel to other hospitals. And we're really worried about the risk both to women and to their babies with that proposal.
Firefighters who first tackled a blaze in a tower block in Camberwell have told a court how they faced an inferno. The Lakanal House fire killed 6 people, including 3 children, in 2009. Our special correspondent Kurt Barling has been listening to the evidence at the inquest. And Kurt, what more was said?
Riz, it's a bitter night tonight, but the firefighters conjured up the intense heat they faced when they entered this block of flats back in 2009. It was an inferno. As they went into flat 65, which was on fire, it was so hot they couldn't recognise any of the furniture left there. They also saw that the front of the building had fallen away, and one firefighter had to put his hand on the belt of the man in front of him to protect him from walking out into the void and 9 floors down. He also said that it was the first time they realised that there were 2 floors to the flats. They effectively were working in this environment not knowing exactly what they were facing. On the way up, they met 2 residents and told them to go back to their flats because that was the standard operating procedure, telling people to stay put, to stay safe.
And the court, Kurt, also heard from residents talking about what they did when the fire took hold.
Indeed, at its most intense at the seat of the fire, it was over 800 degrees centigrade. Some of those residents decided they weren't going to stay put and they tried to get out. They walked down the central staircase. 2 neighbours fighting through thick smoke took their children and all their instinct, even when they felt they could no longer breathe, to get themselves and their children to safety. When they reached the bottom, they looked back up and saw how difficult that fire was. The inquest continues tomorrow.
From Camberwell, Kurt, thank you. Do stay with us. Still to come.
At the end of the day, she'll be nothing but trouble. And there's trouble for all of us.
From stage to screen, we speak to the Oscar-nominated team behind the film adaptation of Les Miserables. And
it's snowing again, and it looks like there could be enough to cause some travel trouble. I'll have the detailed forecast for you a little later in the programme.
There could have been fewer cancellations at Heathrow if the airport had scheduled fewer flights over the winter months. That's according to the boss of Gatwick, who wants to see a cap on the number of flights in and out of the capital during this time of the year. Aisha Baksh reports.
Both Gatwick and Heathrow airports have been hit by bad weather, but the cancellation of flights has been much worse at Heathrow. Since Friday, Gatwick has cancelled 80 flights, whereas Heathrow Airport has had well over 1,000 flights disrupted. So what happened? Well, a few years ago, Gatwick had similar problems, but they've since invested millions of pounds in snow clearance, and Heathrow is also a much busier airport with more flights to cancel and no room to reschedule them. This was the experience of travellers using Heathrow Airport today.
I think they did a great job. You should come to Romania to see a real winter, because here it wasn't so bad, man.
We've been cancelled twice already. We got cancelled on Friday, we got cancelled on Monday now, and this is the 3rd time we're going to try to get out of London, basically.
I had problems with British Airways. It was cancelled, so I had to travel with another company.
The boss of Gatwick Airport told me he believes rival Heathrow should reorganise their flight plan.
The schedule, there just is no slack in the schedule at Heathrow. So when you get a light dusting of snow, then you have the consequence of the disruption that we saw at the weekend. If we were to spread those flights more sensibly around the capital's airports, then passengers would get to and from London more easily.
Both Heathrow and Gatwick are now waiting for the findings of the Davis Commission investigating airport expansion, which will address the issue of capacity all year round.
Aren't you simply trying to poach Heathrow's business?
I think when you look at the last weekend, over 1,000 flights disrupted, close to 250,000 people. What we're really focusing on is bringing a solution to the table to keep intact London's reputation as one of the aviation leaders globally.
Heathrow Airport executives declined to be interviewed, but in a statement they told BBC London it's for the Commission to make recommendations for how the shortage of UK hub capacity should be addressed and to consider all options. The Department of Transport said it's up to individual airlines to decide which services they operate and from which airports. Aisha Baksh, BBC London News.
It's been confirmed that a series of concerts and festivals will be held at the Olympic Park this summer. The Wireless Festival and Hard Rock Calling, which were previously in Hyde Park, will be the first events since the Games. And there are also plans to stage one of London's biggest annual sports events in the stadium. Adrian Warner has more.
An Olympic world in hibernation. On a winter's day, it's hard to imagine this place grabbed the attention of the planet 6 months ago. The park is a building site again, but by the summer, there's a plan to brighten up the mood. With the buzz of the 2012 summer, with thousands of people on the park. But the music will be louder. Today it was confirmed that the park will stage a series of pop concerts.
We'll be running 2 festivals that are well-branded existing festivals. It's the Wireless Festival, it's a big urban pop festival. It's as big as anything in the world now, I guess, in terms of attendance. Household names, headliners, and we're well down the line there. And then Hard Rock Calling is our rock festival. That's a 2 or 3 day event, which we'll also have. That'll be big rock names in that one.
Oh, Bledman got a terrible start. But the big sporting names are coming back too in July. We've learnt that Legacy officials are close to a deal to move London's annual Grand Prix athletics meeting from Crystal Palace to the stadium. You get the impression that it won't be hard to sell tickets.
I only went to the closing ceremony. I'm dying to go in there and actually see an event put on, you know, an athletics event, a concert, whatever it is.
I think it'd be amazing before people start forgetting about it. Let's get it open and get people enjoying it. Might as well, seeing as it's there.
And of course there's also the hope that West Ham are going to move into the stadium in the long term. But they haven't done a deal yet, and I understand that there are still major stumbling blocks regarding the financial guarantees that Legacy officials want from the football club. I'm told the mayor is prepared to turn his back on football altogether in the next 2 months. So these concert and athletics deals could be crucial to the park paying its way in the future.
Adrian's with me. An interesting turn of events, because it wasn't long ago that it was football or football.
Yes, I mean, Boris Johnson is involved in tense negotiations at the moment with West Ham. Look, the mayor wants a share of any profits if West Ham move into the stadium and then sell the club because it's worth a lot more. And I get the impression West Ham are not that keen to do that. So I think what effectively the corporation and indeed the mayor's doing is playing hard to get here. They're saying, look, we can have relationships with other people. We can have concert promoters moving in. They want to be with us. So you're going to have to come closer to our position, West Ham. But you know, Riz, I'm not totally convinced that a deal is going to be done for West Ham to move in.
OK, Adrian, thank you. It's been a record-breaking hit on the West End stage. Now the film adaptation of Les Miserables has been nominated for a host of Oscars and BAFTAs, including Best Film and Best Sound Mixing. Our arts correspondent Brenda Romanis reports now on how the music for the movie was recorded using groundbreaking techniques.
Camera. Set and action.
It's the epic screen adaptation of the stage musical. Now Les Miserables has 8 Oscar and 9 BAFTA nominations, including for sound. Simon Hayes was responsible for capturing the film's entire audio content.
At the end of the day should be nothing but trouble. And there's trouble for all and there's trouble for one.
Tom's vision was to have the actors be able to be truly emotive on the set, to be able to take a moment to reflect on any thought processes while they were acting. And of course you can't do that if you're miming to a pre-record.
I might have known the cat had claws. The cast sang live to a piano accompaniment, played to them through earpieces. The orchestra was recorded later, taking their lead from the performances of the cast.
In some takes I'd be like, what have I done? Sweet Jesus, what have I done? Become a thief in the night? Become a dog on the run? Have I fallen so far and is the hour so late that nothing remains but the crime I hate? I can take a little break, I can move on, I can speed it up, I can slow it down, which means I just have to worry about acting it.
How
impressed were you with the ability of the lead cast?
By the time they arrived with us, not only were they all fantastic singers within their own rights, but the vocal stamina that they had. Those guys were singing for 12 hours a day, which is no mean feat.
A heart full of song, so I'm doing everything all wrong.
Sound is one of those departments in film where sometimes you only notice it if it's not good. You know, it's expected that sound will always be good, and the fact that that BAFTA and the Academy see the sound on Les Mis as worthy for nomination has just really made me feel very proud.
I don't know what to say.
Brenda Imanis, BBC London News.
Time for a check on the weather. Peter's here and the snow's back.
It is indeed back. I was dreaming a dream the other night that it was going away, but alas, we're going to have to wait till the weekend. It has started snowing again. Let me show you what's been happening on the radar this afternoon. These echoes were originally rain as they crossed the south coast, but as that rain's come inland, it's turned to snow. Of course, it is very cold. We've got an arc of snow really from Sussex across into Surrey, Hampshire, Berkshire, up into Oxfordshire. A little bit of snow now showing itself over the tops of the Chilterns. So more snow this evening, and it is turning very icy out there again. I think the heaviest falls will be in that arc to the south and west of us. That's where you could see 2 to 5 centimetres of fresh snow. Up over the high ground, places like the Hog's Back and the Berkshire Downs, where you could see as much as 10 centimetres of snow, but the breeze will tend to push the snow away from us. Not likely to snow in Essex overnight tonight, but it will be icy there. Icy everywhere. Minimum temperatures tonight between 0 and -8. Last night was a little bit colder. The cloud was more broken, -4 to -15. So not quite so cold tonight. It will be an icy rush hour again tomorrow morning and again tomorrow evening. Now you might see a few flakes of snow tomorrow, but basically like today, it is going to be cold and grey. Afternoon temperatures just getting above freezing. So there will be a little bit of a thaw, but the water, once it gets onto the roads and pavements, will refreeze tomorrow night. So another widespread frost and ice tomorrow night. We keep the cold grey weather for the rest of the week. Still with us on Thursday and Friday. And then we could have some problems this weekend. I'll keep you posted on this, but it looks as though less cold air will start to move in. Of course, the snow will start to thaw, and with some heavy rain in the forecast, it will turn slushy, but we could have some problems with local flooding. But as I say, I will keep you posted on that. So grey and cold for the rest of the week. The breeze starting to pick up on Friday. We might get a little bit of sleety rain on Friday night. That's the beginning of the change this weekend, Riz.
OK, Peter, thanks very much. A reminder of the headlines. A British woman has been sentenced to death for smuggling cocaine into Bali. 56-year-old Lindsay Sandiford received a greater sentence than the prosecution wanted. Her lawyers say they'll appeal. More than 5,000 British soldiers will lose their jobs this summer in the latest round of army cuts. The Ministry of Defence has warned that there are more job losses to come, but critics fear it will affect the battle against the latest terror threat. There's more travel disruption today across the UK because of the snow and icy conditions. Hundreds of schools remain closed as the big freeze continues. And it's confirmed that 2 major music festivals are to be held at the Olympic Park this summer. And that's it. Thanks very much for joining us. I'll be back later during the 10 o'clock news here on BBC One. Until then, from all of us on the team, do have a lovely evening. Bye-bye.
Friend of the Doctor and the Wombles, Bernard Cribbins joins The One Show next.
Hey, you think it'll be quiet here again today?
There's a positive aspect to the phone not ringing. No crimes being committed.
You've got 24 hours to solve this case.
Anything? I think they were having some kind of lover's tiff.
I shouldn't have operated on that, but that doesn't make me a murderer.
Death in Paradise continues tonight at 9 on BBC One and BBC One HD.
Yes, the Commissioner's always wanted to say that. Finally, he got his chance. 24 hours to solve another Death in Paradise. Tonight at 9, here on BBC One.
Hello and welcome to The One Show with Alex Jones.
And Matt Baker. Now, on these cold winter evenings, what could be better than the company of a good storyteller? And tonight, we've got the best in the business.
Yeah, with 25 years of Jackanory under his belt, he's back on our screens, showing us how it's done. So, if we're all sitting comfortably, please welcome Bernard Cribbins. Bernard, we're on.
I'm sorry,
We're live, Bernard.
I dropped off then for a minute. Yeah.
It's the warm environment of the studio in these cold conditions.
It's nice to be in the warm, isn't it?
Yeah. How have you been finding it? Sorry, Ways.
I don't really like winter anymore, I've decided.
Oh, really?
Are you over the snow, Bernard?
I don't like snow. I mean, it's all right now and again, but I've stopped sledging and skiing and all that sort of stuff. I never did skiing, so what am I talking about? I've not, yes, but sledging and all that used to be fun, but I think as you get older, it becomes a bit of a pain.
Yeah.
No, of
Well,
course.
do you know, to be honest with you, with us as well, on a live show, it's tricky. We've had a few problems with guests over the last few days. But listen, thank you.
I was surprised to see you two here,
Well, Mark Williams didn't make it, so thank you for coming in.
Do you know, we did have the idea of having a stand-in at Bernard. We hope you don't mind.
Really?
No disrespect, but
Can I see it?
This is Tia at the St Bernard. And there she is, look.
Oh, I see.
With her owner, Kathy. So I'll tell you what,
look at that.
let's bring her over because she's working tonight, aren't you, my darling? Come on over. Thank you, Kathy. Right, Tia, let's have a little wander. Because... Come on over. There we are.
Hello, God.
Because Tia...
My goodness.
Something here. She wants a little drink of my water, I think, first. Darling, sit down. There's a good girl. And we will remove the goods around her collar.
Now, Tia's brought something
Is that
special
genuine
for you.
in there?
Well, yeah.
4-star?
A bit of a winter warmer.
My goodness.
Do you want to do the honours here, Al?
Yeah, come on then. Have we got the pliers? Because it was a bit stiff.
Actually, Alex, I know you like a drink. You can have mine because I don't drink anymore.
Oh, Bernard, that's very kind
You
of
have
you.
mine. No, I'll have this. I'll toast you in this corporation box.
Do you want a bit of this, Al?
I'll tell you what. You would wait for a drink from that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you would.
I think that'll be enough.
Just a little bit of a winter warmer.
Let's have a look.
Wonderful.
I can't even get the plug back in.
Oh, lovely.
Nice.
Anyway, yes, but you're going to be doing a bit
Cheers,
of work
Tia.
for us tonight.
It's still dripping. You're wasting it.
Yeah, all right, good lad, Bernard.
Get in there.
Sort us out.
Yes. Now, later on, Bernard, we're going to try and prove whether or not dogs have a sixth sense.
Really?
And that they know when their owner is coming home. So,
Really?
what do you think? Is there anything in that?
Oh, I think that's quite true. What have we had now? We've had beagles. Certainly with our beagles, we had 3 beagles. We had the old dam and we had 2 bitches from subsequent litters.
Yeah.
And they used to know when people were coming. But the best thing they did, it wasn't really psychic, but if my wife Jill was in the garden at about 4:30 when they were normally fed and forgot, the dogs would go out and they go, "Oi, have you seen the time? Come on," and get in. And, you know, they on the dot of 4:30.
What about Tia, Kathy? I mean, do any sort of psychic things there?
Certainly dinner time, as Bernard said, dinner time, absolutely. But she always seems to know when husband's coming home from work or back to shopping.
But that, I
It's always
think,
at
is
the door.
habitual, isn't it? You know.
But to be honest, Tia, you didn't realise that Bernard was teetotal, did you? But so no psychic.
Tell you what, he must have had a few. He just collapsed then. Didn't he?
It's a slippy floor. Anyway, later in the show, we will give you all the advice that you need if you are looking after your pets in these freezing conditions.
Yes, and speaking of which, if you do have any lovely pictures of your furry friends in the snow, send them in to us at the usual address.
Yes, and later, Tia here will be awarding Best in Snow.
Oh,
You like that, Bernard?
I like it.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Now then, when it comes to driving in the snow, most of us, let's face it, should still have our L plates on.
Yes, but armed with a flask of hot tea and driving gloves, Lucy headed for snowbound County Durham for a lesson on ice driving. But you don't need any tips on getting around these conditions, do you, darling?
Did you wake up this morning to something like this? Well, I think it's fair to say that many of us are unconfident about driving in these challenging conditions. Well, I'm here to take the bull by the horns and learn from an expert how to drive safely in the snow. Good luck, everybody.
Peter Atkinson of the Institute of Advanced Motorists has been advising drivers for over 20 years. Boots full of our emergency kit, and I'm ready to go. Harsh winters are few and far between in the UK, so many drivers have never experienced conditions quite like this. Would it help if we were all more